Hey gamers, and welcome to IMO, or In My Opinion, with me, Shinobi Nando. This is my series where I give my opinions on popular and unpopular gaming topics. I back it up with some information, and then most importantly, let me know what you guys think in the comment down below. Today's topic is, what is better, reboots, remasters, or remakes? But first, you might be asking me, what's the difference? First off, we have reboots, which by definition are a revamping or restarting of a franchise. They generally ignore all previous entries or established canon and simply keep the same characters, themes. Sometimes they nod to the original series, but they normally disregard all other established entries or canon in order to be freed up from narrative ties. Often developers will choose to do this when a series either face increasing negative criticism, it's gone stale, or it's simply ended and they want to reuse the characters they've already established. Examples of these include the amazing Tomb Raider and Rise of a Tomb Raider, DMC, Devil May Cry, and some soft reboots like the 2018 God of War. Now I know what you're thinking, Nando, what's a soft reboot? Well, in terms of gaming, this normally means where the developer chooses to ignore selective entries simply because of plot holes or bad narrative writing. Again, also to free them up creatively, or it could be something as simple as a shift in gameplay and genre. The aforementioned God of War is a perfect example of this. While still ordering the old entries, the gameplay completely shifted to an over-the-shoulder type hack and slash with action RPG elements. Most noticeably, the Greek mythology was swapped for Norse mythology. Well, after Kratos pretty much killed all the Olympians, there wasn't really much further they could take that plotline. This creatively frees up the team once again. This allows new players to jump in at a new starting point, one that's not tied by the rest of the franchise, allowing them to join in this late, not having to replay 1, 2, 3 in Ascension. In my opinion, these can be very hit or miss, with games that lost popularity like Tomb Raider making an amazing comeback after keeping Laura but changing her character to a more deeply thought out one, instead of one of just walking boobs, and changing the gameplay to that of guerrilla tactics and survival over impossible backflips while fighting T-Rexes. However, missteps happen like DMC, Devil May Cry. While not a bad game, the shift in characters were poorly received, especially to the twins Dante and Virgil. One becoming a whiny emo brat, and the other one becoming a frickin' backstabbing, dishonorable jerk that shoots a pregnant demon in the back during a friendly negotiation while she's unarmed. But also decides to, for no reason, 180 and decide to rule over humans after spending the entire game trying to save us all. Moving on. Next up are remakes, which by definition is when a game, while held in high regard, has been reworked from the ground up to suit modern times. While these games were generally created in a bygone era, and again, held in high regard, have either aged poorly or are held back by the restrictions and limitations of the technology at the time. Guys, almost the complete opposite of a reboot. The story plot, core mechanics, and often everything else but the graphics and gameplay tends to be preserved, while everything else gets updated and modernized. While new modes, levels, and subplots are often added or fixed, the overall narrative is often beat for beat. Often confused for our next point, remasters, these aren't simply just graphical overhauls. Prime examples this year alone are the GameCube version and then HD remake of Resident Evil, the upcoming Resident Evil 2 set to release in January next year, and the much anticipated Final Fantasy VII remake in whatever parallel universe in which it has a release date. Come on, Square Enix. In my opinion, these are generally really well done, mainly because the game itself is held in high regards. Minor missteps occurred, such as Crash Bandicoot Insane's Trilogy first part, where Crash Bandicoot's jumping physics are updated to the later games. However, the levels are not adjusted accordingly to this new momentum of his jumps, leading to many unfair deaths. The Resident Evil HD remake is one of the best examples, recapturing the Spencer Mansion while adding new elements like burning the dead so they don't come back, as crimsons, or fixing some of the terrible, terrible dialogue from the 90s.
This door down. Hurry! This way! You were almost a Jill sandwich.
And lastly, this brings us to our final point, remasters. Now, generally, there's nothing inherently wrong with these. They're just, you know, overly done, cash grabs, poor value for money, basically ripping the customer off by making them buy the same game over and over and over again, and often just poorly optimized ports. Oh, wait. I'm supposed to do that part after. So what is a remaster? A remaster is a graphical upscaling, normally also increasing the frame rate, and if you're lucky, will include most, if not all, of the previously released DLC. As mentioned before, this genre often gets mistaken for remakes, hence the long-winded explanation. Examples of these would almost be any game brought to the newest console generation from the previous one, such as Skyrim, and there's also Skyrim. But all joking aside, we also have Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Borderlands, the Handsome Jack Collection, and other games such as Saints Row 4 and Dead Island. Now, the idea behind a remaster isn't always wrong. Sometimes these games were released right at the end of the PS3 or 360 era, where the gap between console and PC was increasingly noticeable. Games like Tomb Raider looking so different that you could often mistake Laura for two different characters when compared side by side. This can often save or revitalize a franchise in which people skipped out on because of the looming of a new console generation, like what happened with The Last of Us. Another acceptable use of remasters are games that worked well from a gameplay standpoint, but were released so early in the other generations that the graphics don't hold up in HD, such as Halo the Master Chief Collection. They are also generally well received, because they tend to include all the previous DLC, such as the Handsome Jack Collection, where you not only receive Borderlands 1, but you also receive the pre-sequel and all 3 season passes for less than the price of a standard AAA game. However, this category is rife for abuse and is often overly used just to resell games to you that you already bought with little or no to improvement. Hence why, in my opinion, it is the worst out of the 3. Many times a game is remastered poorly, often missing content, or used to hide the flaws in newer games, or to trick customers into buying the limited edition. That's right, Call of Duty, I'm looking at you. You only have to look to this year to see how Activision are releasing just the campaign of Modern Warfare 2 to hide the fact that they didn't develop a campaign at all for Black Ops 4. And oh boy, you better get that limited edition or wait a whole year to buy it separately. Another massive problem with remasters is they simply just gloss over problems from the original games. While remakes and reboots tend to fix problems, remasters tend to keep everything exactly the same, don't update any glitches or anything else, bugs are often missed or left in, and all it really is just a prettier version of a game you've already played. But hey, that's just one man's opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you tend to agree with me? Do you think I'm being overly critical on remasters, or are they a good thing? And as always, don't forget to leave a like if you enjoyed the video or found it informative, and subscribe if you want to see more of these or any of my other videos such as my collector's editions unboxings, movie reviews and let's plays. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video.